It has started.
Okay, welcome to Lab 7. Question 1. This is going to be, 1A is going to be a private cost because you're paying for your iTunes download. 1B, this is going to be an external benefit because your neighbor will get to hear your incredible music. 1C is an external cost because your neighbor hates your horridly monotone trash music. 1D is going to be a private benefit because your ears are graced with your impeccable tasted music. 1E is a private cost because you are paying to feel safe in your home. 1F is a private benefit because you feel safe and comfortable in your home, free from the worry of being held at gunpoint and robbed. 1G is going to be an external cost because though you might feel safe in your protected home, your neighbor might end up being the one robbed. 1H is an external benefit because though they might not have a fancy sticker signaling protection, your neighbors their neighbors might have it, therefore decreasing the likelihood of burglaries in the entire neighborhood. Question 2A, there will be an external cost of $10,000 per SUV and a tax will compensate for this externality. 2B, there will be an external cost of $400 per dress and a tax will compensate for this externality. An example of an external cost in the fashion industry is that of water pollution by fabric dyes. This can especially be seen in Bangladesh, where the effects of pollution are massive due to the amounts of wastewater from textile and clothing companies being dumped into canals. 2C, there will be an external benefit of $999 million per new idea, and a subsidy will compensate for the externality.
For question 3, it asks about the Coase theorem and whether its assumptions apply in different situations. And for A, the Coase theorem does apply in this situation because the transaction costs are low, which is just to remove one ugly shrub, and the property rights are clearly defined in this case, which are your neighbor's property value. For B, however, the theorem assumptions do not apply because the transaction costs are quite high, which are to remove the Jeep, paint the house, and fill in the ditch, while the property rights are not clearly defined, where it says the entire neighborhood is affected and not just a singular property. For C, the Coase theorem similarly here does not apply again in this case because the transaction costs are high, and although this is because although a lot of houses line the edge of the lake, they're not really gonna be affected by a lack of fish in the lake. Whilst the property rights are again not clearly defined, being said that thousands of houses line the lake. For D, however, the theorem does apply in this case because the transaction costs are low, because only one important facility, I guess, is affected by this negatively affected by this action, which is to pour hot water into the lake. And the property rights again are clearly defined with only this one large fishery being affected. For question 4, it asks about whether these taxes are effective in reducing these externalities, and I think for A, this tax is not effective because it's taxing large SUVs, and the externality is the pollution. So it would be better instead to tax the pollutants directly, or cars that don't use catalytic converters. For B, again, this tax is not effective because the externality is the unruly behavior in the neighborhood, and if you tax the property value, then there's nothing stopping the people in the neighborhood from going to a different store that doesn't operate 24 hours. Instead, I think it would be better to tax the bottles of alcohol are sold after a certain time, so like 8 p.m. And for C and D, these taxes will hit the source of the external cost. For C, that would be the bell-bottom jeans, and for D, that would be the profanity in the TV shows.
So for question 5,
It asks which is a more effective way to reduce pollution, commanding the company to use a particular air scrubbing technology or commanding the company to reduce pollution. Since the end goal is to reduce pollution, the more efficient way is just commanding the company to reduce pollution by 25%. This allows the company to have a bit of freedom when it comes to choosing how they want to reduce their pollution, so they can lose the least amount of profits by cutting their pollution. And then for B, it's asked if a corrupt government grants the company all of the tradable pollution permits, does it guarantee the company will engage in an enormous amount of pollution? It doesn't guarantee that, because the company will only pollute as much as they need to in a free market. So the company, if the tradable pollution permits are more than the pollution of the company in a free market, which they probably would be, they won't pollute as much as the amount of tradable permits they have. So they won't engage in an enormous amount of pollution. Then for question 6, it asks, why would a firm prefer to offer employees free flu shots? Because then it ensures most of the company is vaccinated, so if someone came into work sick, it would be unlikely to pass that sickness to other workers, and the company will have better productivity. This cost of vaccinations may actually cause the company to have less losses than if they would have just paid their workers more. And then for question 7, it asks, what evidence do you have that the environment is priceless is an incorrect. So land is worth a certain amount to developers. The resources dug out of the ground sell for a certain price. And there's a price determined in tradable allowances that equal 1 ton of sulfur dioxide. So there's definitely a price on the environment.
So for number 8A, number 8A, we are asked to show graphically the external cost. The external cost can be shown as the red line on the in the graph. For number B, it asks us to represent the deadweight loss. The deadweight loss is represented by the gray triangle also shown in the diagram. And then for number C, we are asked if the tax should be large enough for no one to want to buy romance novels. And personally, I don't think that should be the case, as the negative externalities present do not make the supply zero, meaning that there are still positive externalities and there's still external benefits and social benefits to reading that are still present, that would not be outweighed or overshadowed by the external costs. And then for part D, we are asked to show how big the tax should be. The size of the tax should be the difference between the two supply curves. That is the supply curve and the private cost and the external cost. This is shown by the blue line in the diagram. And then for part E, the answer for part E is that the revenue that is generated from this tax doesn't necessarily have to be spent to fix the harmful social effects of romance novels. It could be used to fix any social issue, as long as it is used efficiently and effectively. For number 9, the revenue of the two in the two cases, revenue generated by the trade allowances and by the taxation, would be similar, if not the same in any of the cases. Thank you. This has been our lab. We appreciate you for listening.